By the late 1930s, the global political situation was becoming increasingly tense. European countries were preparing for war, building modern armies and fleets. Technological progress had turned ships into deadly weapons capable of altering the balance of power. Germany, under Hitler, was constructing the Kriegsmarine, a new navy intended to challenge British naval supremacy. Among its most powerful ships were the battleships Bismarck and Tippett. They were symbols of national pride and technological mastery, massive, heavily armored, and equipped with powerful guns capable of destroying any ship on the horizon. Bismarck displaced over 50,000 tons and carried 8 15-inch, 380mm, guns. Its armor could withstand direct hits from most naval shells of the time, and its speed and maneuverability made it difficult to chase. Across the Atlantic, the United States remained neutral but carefully monitored Europe and prepared its navy for a possible war. American strategists began building a new generation of cruisers, fast, long-range, capable of reconnaissance missions, and armed with significant firepower. Among them were USS Wichita, USS Tuscaloosa, and USS Augusta. The crews of these ships underwent intensive training in navigation, gunnery, and intelligence gathering. Every minute on patrol could be decisive for the fate of Allied forces. The atmosphere on board was tense, as the lives of thousands of sailors depended on the observation and precision of the crews during convoy escort and future naval battles. When World War II began in September 1939, Great Britain became heavily dependent on supplies from across the Atlantic: food, weapons, fuel. German submarines and surface raiders regularly attacked merchant ships, threatening Allied supply lines. Every ship sunk brought the country closer to a crisis. The United States remained officially neutral but created the Neutrality Patrol, a network of cruisers and destroyers that patrolled the Atlantic, observed suspicious vessels, and relayed their positions to the British. The mission was extremely dangerous: to protect American shipping and gather intelligence without engaging in direct combat. During these patrols, heavy cruisers proved invaluable. With their range, speed, modern radios, and navigation systems, they could spot the enemy first. USS Tuscaloosa and USS Wichita often tracked suspicious ships, intercepted radio transmissions, and immediately relayed them to the British. This unofficial but highly effective cooperation significantly increased the Allies' chances against German raiders. On May 18, 1941, Bismarck left the Baltic Sea accompanied by the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen. The operation, codenamed Rheinübung, aimed to break into the North Atlantic and attack Allied convoys. The German command hoped that even one battleship could seriously threaten Britain's supply lines. British codebreakers and neutral observers quickly detected the breakout, and the home fleet rushed to intercept. Few realized that American cruisers were already monitoring unusual activity and relaying information to the British. The crews worked tirelessly, tracking German movements even at night, using radar, observation periscopes, and navigation charts. Every minute could change the outcome of the operation. As Bismarck and Prinz Eugen passed through the Danish Strait, American cruisers maintained a safe distance while continuously monitoring the enemy. USS Tuscaloosa intercepted parts of German radio communications about refueling and fleet movements. The Atlantic was icy and stormy, making observation difficult and exhausting. Every hour of delay could cost the lives of convoy crews or alter the results of upcoming battles. The crew spent days and nights on watch, often in rain, wind, and cold, carefully studying enemy movements. Their work was invisible to the world but vital to Allied success. On May 24th, the British battlecruiser HMS Hood and the battleship HMS Prince of Wales intercepted the German group. In the opening minutes of battle, Hood, the pride of the Royal Navy, was hit by a massive Bismarck shell. The explosion destroyed the ship in 3 minutes, killing nearly 1,400 sailors. The world was shocked. Bismarck tried to escape to French ports for repairs, but the British pursued it relentlessly. Meanwhile, American cruisers continued to track Bismarck, intercepting radio traffic and passing crucial information to the British, helping coordinate the pursuit. For 2 days after Hood was sunk, the Atlantic was filled with warships. The British cruisers Norfolk and Suffolk kept watch over Bismarck, while the American cruisers USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa maintained constant surveillance. The German battleship tried to hide in fog and storms, but American observations remained accurate. Crews worked non-stop, even at night, relaying data to the Allies and ensuring effective coordination of forces. On May 26th, British Catalina aircraft spotted Bismarck heading southeast toward France. This discovery energized the entire Allied fleet. British Swordfish attacked Bismarck in bad weather, flying low over the waves under flak from anti-aircraft guns. One torpedo damaged the rudder, making steering impossible and sealing the ship's fate. American cruisers continued to transmit intelligence to the British, ensuring effective planning of the next strike. On May 27th, HMS King George V and Rodney, along with destroyers, attacked the damaged Bismarck. The waves beat against the sides of the ships, rain flooded the decks, but visibility allowed the gunners to conduct aimed fire. The battle lasted about 2 hours. Bismarck, although damaged, returned gunfire, but her hull received numerous damage, her speed decreased, and her turrets were destroyed. British destroyers came closer and torpedoed the ship. Over 2,000 German sailors were killed. Only a few hundred were rescued by British ships. American cruisers played an invisible but crucial role. Their surveillance and intelligence gathering helped the British close the trap around the Bismarck. The USS Wichita and the USS Tuscaloosa showed that strategy, coordination, and observation could be decisive against even the most powerful enemy. In December 1941, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States officially entered World War II. The heavy cruisers that had previously patrolled the Atlantic and watched for German raiders were now transformed into active combat ships. USS Wichita, USS Tuscaloosa, and their sister ships were immediately re-equipped for full convoy duty, protecting ships carrying troops and cargo as they crossed the Atlantic to Great Britain. The experience gained during the hunt for Bismarck proved invaluable. Officers who tracked German surface ships taught the crews anti-submarine tactics, interaction with British air patrols, and the exchange of coded information. The cruisers became the center of coordination for Allied naval operations, ensuring the safe passage of convoys through the dangerous waters of the Atlantic in early 1942. A number of American cruisers were sent to escort Arctic convoys to the Soviet Union. The sea routes through the Lofoten Islands and the Barents Sea were dangerous. Temperatures dropped below freezing, ice threatened the hulls, and German aircraft and submarines constantly attacked the convoys. The crews had to be trained in survival in extreme conditions, in the rapid repair of engines and guns after shelling, and in rescuing sailors from the icy sea. These operations not only tested physical endurance, but also tested the morale of the teams, who were exposed to constant stress and danger. Other American cruisers operated in the Caribbean and off the west coast of Africa, protecting trade routes from German raiders. They conducted night patrols, trained to track submarines and attack them with air and artillery support. USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa became models of versatility. They could quickly intercept enemy ships, conned American cruisers with a center of coordination of anti-submarine patrol groups. They developed tactics that allowed them to track the enemy at long distances, reducing the losses of Allied convoys. The crew spent hours in cold cabins, monitoring periscopes, listening to sonar signals and transmitting data to Allied headquarters. Their actions saved hundreds of lives and dozens of ships. Long-term patrols of American cruisers were accompanied by close interaction with aviation. Catapults on board allowed them to launch observation aircraft that searched for German ships for hundreds of kilometers. Pilots and crews of cruisers worked as a single team, exchanging information via radio and signal systems, creating a kind of network of eyes that made surprise attacks by the enemy impossible. In 1944, American cruisers played a key role in the Allied landings in Normandy. They shelled German coastal fortifications, supported infantry in combat, destroyed minefields, and coordinated the movement of landing ships. Each artillery salvo required precision, because Allied ships and their own soldiers were on the map. The crews worked non-stop, enduring nightly shelling and constant stress, ensuring the successful advance of the landing. American cruisers participated in naval operations in the Mediterranean Sea, supporting the landing of troops in southern France. They covered the landing ships, conducted artillery fire on German fortifications, and cooperated with aviation and British troops. Their accuracy and speed allowed them to avoid losses among the Allied troops and ensured their advance along the coast. Some of the American cruisers were transferred to the Pacific Ocean. There they protected sea supply lines, intercepted Japanese raiders, and participated in battles for islands. USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa became an example of a universal force, capable of conducting artillery combat, reconnaissance, and convoy protection. All this time, the crews of the cruisers gained invaluable experience. Days and nights at sea, working with intelligence data, shooting, rescue operations, all this formed the professional and moral qualities of the teams. They saw fear, losses, and heroism of their comrades, learned to survive in extreme conditions and work as a single unit. Even after numerous operations, the crews continued training. They honed their skills in storm control, firing at moving targets, and communicating with aircraft and other ships. The USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa became training centers for new crews, passing on their experience to the next generation of sailors. After their experience in the North Atlantic, American cruisers became an integral part of Allied naval coordination. The crews worked side by side with the British fleets, relaying intelligence, coordinating the movements of destroyers and aircraft. Their role was invisible to the general public, but it was thanks to the accuracy of the information transmission that the Allies were able to avoid traps and effectively pursue enemy ships. The intelligence they provided was crucial for organizing ambushes and planning operations, from the Arctic to the Caribbean. Heavy cruisers played a key role in the fight against German submarines. They coordinated actions with destroyers and patrol aircraft, monitoring the noise signals of sonar and periscopes. Crews spent hours in cold cabins, listening to the silence of the sea, ready to react instantly to any signal. Such work was exhausting and required maximum concentration, because the slightest mistake could cost the lives of dozens of sailors in the convoy. Cruisers became the basis of artillery support during the landing of Allied troops. They shelled the coast, destroyed minefields and fortifications, and covered landing ships. USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa acted as accurate artillery platforms, ensuring the effective advancement of infantry. Fire was coordinated with ground commanders and aviation, creating a single fire support network. In 1944 to 1945, American cruisers participated in the liberation of France and Italy. They covered landings, shelled German fortifications, and ensured the safe passage of transport ships. Naval battles required precision, as Allied forces were on the map. Crews worked non-stop, enduring shelling and strong sea waves. Cruisers actively cooperated with aviation, launching observation aircraft from catapults. These aircraft patrolled the seas for hundreds of kilometers, detected enemy ships and transmitted coordinates to Allied ships and aircraft. Such cooperation allowed them to create a network of eyes that made surprise enemy attacks almost impossible. Even in peacetime and after major battles, crews conducted training, honing their skills in artillery combat, ship management in a storm, data exchange, and rescue operations. USS Wichita and USS Tuscaloosa became training centers for new crews, passing on the experience of veterans. This ensured constant combat readiness and readiness for any maritime challenges. Life at sea was tough: cold, stormy seas, night watches, and long hours at sea. Crews lived in confined conditions, adhering to strict discipline. They learned to respond quickly to emergencies, repair damage, and maintain morale during prolonged operations. Each mission was a test of endurance, professionalism, and team spirit. After the end of the European campaign, these cruisers continued to serve, providing safe passage for convoys and naval support in other theaters of war. Their versatility, speed, and firepower made them key in many operations. USS Wichita, USS Tuscaloosa, and Augusta became symbols of observation, discipline, and precision. The history of these cruisers has shown that even the greatest naval victories depend on observation, reconnaissance, and coordination. The joint work of the crews with the Allies, the accuracy of the transmission of information and patience determined the success of operations no less than the power of the guns. These lessons were taken into account in post-war naval strategy and were used for decades to protect convoys and combat underwater threats. Today, the story of the hunt for Bismarck and the role of American cruisers is often remembered only because of the loud artillery battle. But the real heroes are the crews of the USS Wichita, USS Tuscaloosa, and Augusta, who spent months on cold patrols, transmitting intelligence and not letting the enemy slip away. Their work proves that history is defined not only by those who fire the final shot, but also by those who watch closely, coordinate actions, and work for a common victory.